Okay, we're all getting there. All right. So I'm going to just shout about somebody wants to get in and they can't. All right, guys, very well done. You did a deep dive into anatomy very, very quickly. And I know it was a big struggle, right? But you guys have done brilliantly. So it's really, really hard. So some of you found it easy-ish and others had to work very, very hard. So well done. You all got there, which is fantastic. So yay. Does anybody have any questions about any of that anatomy homework? Anything at all? Nothing? We all good? Oh, Yvette, do you have? I can't see because your hands did that. Do you have a question or are you okay?
I've got a question. I've got one question.
Okay, go.
I've got a question. So just in terms of the warming up and cooling down, so when you cool down, right, is it always opposite? Like, is that always opposite? And should we, because I know you said sometimes, like, you don't have to, but do we generally always do a cool down, or what else do we do, like, after the sequence? Like, and is it always an opposite pose, basically?
Look, in a general vinyasa class that you've probably all been to, most of you anyway, that's generally the theme of things, where if we're moving one way a lot of the time, then we take people a little bit to the other way. It's just one system. For instance, if you were doing, say you were doing a handstand workshop, right, or an arm balance workshop, with handstand you're kind of straight, but say you wouldn't need to move anybody in an opposite way. You don't actually have to. It's more that people, I don't know how you guys feel, but it's more that people quite like it. That's more the thing, you know, they like, you know, and it's all that gentle stuff at the end, which is a little bit restorative. So it's kind of, you know, you're not really doing anything. You might be twisting a little bit, doing your windscreen wiper legs, rolling from side to side, little, you know, curled up poses. And people generally tend to like that. So this is just a system. It's not, your body does not have to be brought, physically speaking or anatomically speaking, it doesn't need to be brought back. Like, it can sit in this chair for 8 hours and I'm quite capable of standing up. But you know what I mean? Your body just works like that. But it generally just feels good. It slows things down a little bit. It feels good. So it's one of the systems that you can use. You know, other systems like Ashtanga, I know a couple of you have done Ashtanga. Other systems are where, you know, Ashtanga, you'll finish with, literally you're in lotus and you push down and lift your legs off the floor and you hold and you breathe and then you lie down on your back, and that's how that finishes. So and our Iyengar yoga, they don't do any finishing, you just stop. It's like, it's over now, go home. And so it really is up to you. It's a system, you know. You could, if, say it was a gentle class that you're doing, a gentle hatha type class, you could just have people finish with Shavasana, would be absolutely fine. But for a system, you know, I mean, all of you guys know that thing, you know, sort of stretch a little bit from side to side and everything feels quite nice. Because most of our vinyasa classes out there are beginner to maybe 1 or 2 things that are intermediate. So it keeps it still. So I'm just letting Akila into the weight room. So it really is just for our purposes. We kind of don't quite do the opposite. So if we were doing a forward bend peak pose, we'd take you into a gentle bridge or thing for no other reason than just to kind of move you in another way. And it's like people seem to like it. So it's quite a vague answer, as always. There's no exact science. So yeah, but just for this system, yes, 3, 4 poses and you're done, you know. And obviously it just depends what you're doing as your peak pose as to which pose you would choose, but they generally all of, you know, the lying on your back stuff, the twisting stuff, the cross-seated forward folds, little bridges, that kind of, you know, stretchy sort of stuff, that kind of thing. They're all in your manual.
Okay,
That
thank you.
Long-winded answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
For me, it's just important that you guys, we're trying to get you to have a system, because as I said to you right at the beginning, the thing that takes the longest time for yoga teachers, the longest time is sequencing. To put, Bev will talk to you about it because she teaches modern vinyasa, so it's not peak pose stuff, it's quite basic, but fast moving. It's the thing that takes her the longest to do it, and she's been doing it for years. So it really is, you know, it's very time consuming. I want to show you something else. You're gonna laugh. Okay, you see all these scraps of paper. These are my sequences from about, I don't know, maybe 3 years. Okay, piles of them written on, ooh, I'm making you all go up because I'm putting it on my mouse, written on literally scraps of paper, divided very loosely into groin lotus sequences. So this takes the longest time. And when you start out sequencing, it will take you for your first sequence. So at the end of this course, if I pass all your sequences, I would strongly suggest you all share your sequences with each other if you're going to teach, because that gives you 14 sequences, right, to teach out there. So it really is time consuming. The first time you sequence, and you will see, and we're going to talk about this today, the first time you sequence for an actual class, it will take you minimum of a weekend for 1 hour, okay, minimum. Unless you copy somebody else's and remember it. That's the fastest way of doing it. It takes a long time, but you get better and better at it. And if you've got a kind of way of sequencing, which I've got a particular way of sequencing in terms of peak pose stuff, Laura and I, who you haven't met, you will meet her soon, we can actually just go, oh, I'm going to teach this today. Choose a pose, and then we make it up as we go along. So, but that's from over 10,000 classes of doing it. So it really is a time-consuming thing. And so to have a system really helps you fine-tune things very, very quickly. If you're just out there, it's crazy hard. You know, Bev will tell you on Sunday, it literally is the start of her week is sequencing. That's what she has to do every week, because you also very rarely do the same sequence twice, very rarely, unless you're teaching at different studios. You're teaching the same people, you don't do it twice. So it takes a long, long time. So on that note, pose analysis, right? I don't know if you've all managed to watch the videos, but I just want to go through, we're going to do a kind of combo session today. So I want to go through what you guys need to do, the kind of takeaways which you've got in your course overview, right? And what I'm looking for from you guys, right? So all of that anatomy homework is leading up to this, okay? So now you've walked away from that anatomy homework, and you guys know shoulder flexion. You are literally the only 200 in the world that, no, let me lie, there's probably about apparently 2 others that actually know that you need to have shoulder flexion mobility if you want to do wheel pose, okay? You guys, after 2 weeks, know this. I wish I could ask Taryn. Taryn did another 200 and she's Yoga South Africa. So she's gone on to so many trainings. No one knows. You guys know. So you know so much in 2 weeks. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, if you talk to any other yoga teacher out there and say, oh, but no, that person doesn't have good shoulder flexion range, that's why their wheel isn't good, they will not know what you're talking about, okay? Which makes you leagues above already in 2 weeks. Okay? So all of that work has been to look at the elements of breaking down a pose into categories, right? What flexibility is required, so your joint range of movements, okay? What strength is required, what needs to be working quite hard, okay? What will tire, those things, okay? You've been able to look at those things. And now for pose analysis, and this is all in your notes, we add another element. We add in what skill is required. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to choose a pose. It has to be an intermediate pose, and it can't be one of your 3 poses. This is all in the course overview. It cannot be crow, at mermaid, and warrior 3. Okay, those are the only ones you're not allowed to choose. It's got to be an intermediate pose. So it can't be a pose that's, so often people go, oh, I'd really like to do side plank. And I go, yeah, side plank's quite hard, but can you imagine putting a whole sequence together for side plank? What would you do? What would you do to prep somebody for side plank, right? Yeah, in its joint movements, it's too simple. So, you know, you could go, okay, we could do progressions of side plank. We could do it on our elbow. Maybe we do it, you know, with the 1 foot in front, maybe with the 1 foot in tree, and then maybe advance with the leg above. But you can't really prepare somebody for just normal side plank. So it's got to be a kind of slightly complicated pose. It doesn't have to be crazy hard. A slightly complicated pose. There's so many of them. I've given you little videos in the pose analysis. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but I've literally broken down loads and loads and loads of poses to give you an option, but you do not have to do those poses. If you want to do another pose, that's cool. You're going to choose them by the end of the weekend, and you're going to send me your choice. And I will say, yep, that sounds great. And no, that doesn't. So something like side plank would be fine if you choose side plank with where you've got your leg up in the air holding your toe. And the reason for that is, in order to take the leg up in the air and hold your toe, you've got to have flexible hamstrings and adductors. So we can make a lot of the sequence those shapes. So what would be a similar shape to having does everybody know what pose I'm talking about? Side plank with your leg up in the air. What would be similar shapes for that leg up in the air that we could bring into our sequence? I can't hear you, Yvette.
All right, sorry, triangle.
Triangle, you got it, okay? Triangle, what else? What else has got similar shape to triangle?
Tipito leg on the side.
Absolutely. I never know what it's called in English. Leg out to the side pose, right? Okay. What is even simpler than triangle and leg out to the side pose? Think of
lying on.
Yes. Yes, lying on, so you can do the Parivritta Janashirasasana, so you know where you're in a wide-legged forward fold and your one leg is like that. You can fold over to that side. You can do it lying on your back. What about on your knee? What is a similar pose on your knee that will stretch adductors? Say again, Inka?
The side angle one where you're on your knee and your legs out.
Yes.
Your arms.
Yes, yes, gate pose, Parigasana, okay? Yes, and then you could even be on your knee and lift your leg up. You can do hundreds of different things that would make, and it doesn't have to be actual poses, you know, that the tick, this is a yoga pose. It can just be a shape, you know. like you've done in your classes, Bakasana class. You know, you can do Bakasana on the floor with your arms pushing up, shoulder protraction, curling up. You can do it seated. You can create a shape in lots of different ways, and that's often what happens in yoga. What's another standing pose that's got sort of a similar shape? That's normally a transition.
I think it's called star or something like that.
There's star, but what happens with star when you bend your one leg and your other leg is straight out?
Skandasana.
Yes, Skandasana. You know, where you're moving from side to side. So what you're looking at, because now you guys know, you look at something, you look at the shape of the leg in inside plank, and you know that that looks like triangle, right? Then you know now, the front leg in triangle, hip external rotation. The leg is straight, it's turned out, the back leg isn't. So what can I do? So you can create that shape in loads of different poses. So fundamentally, you're just taking the leg out to the side a little bit, turning it out, and then stretch it, okay? And there you've got so many things to put in the sequence. What do you think would happen if we did the side plank leg up in the air version that I don't know what the name is, okay? What strength is required for that pose?
Arms, bending, wrists.
Arms, wrists, this, right? Arms, shoulders, wrists, okay? What do you think will tire?
Your wrists.
Wrists.
Arms, shoulders, wrists, okay? Whatever needs to be strong, and of course we know that that's on a range, okay? Whatever needs to be, you know, it's like, wow, you can feel it. This is strong. I can't hold this for that much longer. That's going to tire. So we couldn't then put in a whole load of one-armed poses. I mean, one arm pushing into the floor poses before we did a big pose like side plank with the leg up in the air, because our arm would just get too tired. You know, we've got 60 minutes. So then if we did want to do something like that, we'd have to bring even just that shape into other things where the arm is not on the floor, or it's in lightly on the floor. So it could be something like a gate pose, Parigasana, push your arm out to the side, lean over, push into the floor. Hips up a little bit, not hectic, not like side plank, side plank, side plank, but just pushing, triangle, change the arm shape, push out with the arms, etc. Because you can't do heaps and heaps and heaps. So you really have to work, when you choose a pose, the poses with more flexibility requirements are the ones that you can work a nice sequence with, because that's really what yoga is out there, isn't it? I mean, we don't do very much strength stuff. We do flexibility stuff. So the pose is the more a pose. So if you think of something like Bakasana, crow pose, compared to Firefly Pose, which we're going to look at a little bit later today. Okay, does everybody know what Firefly is? If you don't, shake your head, it's no big deal. Okay, put your hand, there's a whole lot of heads doing this. I'm trying to like look at each one of you, okay? If anybody doesn't know, do this with your hand. And then okay. So there's two people that don't know. All right, so I'll demonstrate it just now when we go through it. So Firefly is an arm balance, Chichibasana, with your legs like that shape, okay? So it's where, I'll do it quickly. I'm not going to change my setting. I'll just do it very quickly so you can, and bearing in mind I haven't walked up, we're going to do it later. So basically you go in like this, sit back, and then your legs do that. Okay? Everybody know that one? Okay. All right. So what flexibility requirements do you think Firefly needs?
Hamstrings.
Hamstrings. What are similar shapes?
Crow.
Wide-legged fold.
Wide-legged forward fold.
Forward fold, yes. So crow, yes, but more for strength. So if we're looking for flexibility, because this is what we want to put in our sequence, we want to look for poses that are flexibility poses. Okay, what else? Wide-legged forward fold, what else?
Triangle.
Triangle, yes, what else?
Even just squatting, I think.
Squatting, skandasana, all of those things. So when the pose is like, because it's like that, but you're not in a full pancake shape, right? So what you'd be warming up, or what would you be wanting to warm up in Firefly? What flexibility wise?
Adductors.
Adductors, which are your inner thighs, yes, and hamstrings. Okay, so that means you can choose any hamstring pose and any adductor pose that you've got, of which there are hundreds. Okay, there's pyramids, standing splits, there's all the stuff on the floor, there's as in lying on your back, there's stuff with seated stuff, there's stuff on your knees, parigasana, there is standing splits, there's a three-legged dog, it's not the greatest one, but it's okay, you know, etc. It can go on and on and on. Splits, you know, you can go through this massive range. And this is what is in your manual, okay? In your manual, there are pictures, okay? Single-legged hamstring poses, double-legged hamstring and groin poses, hip external rotation poses, and they are literally almost pretty accurate. It's not that much of a drama. They, you know, it's difficult to say how accurate it is, but they're pretty much in a row of progressions from the easiest to the hardest. Okay, so you can go in there and go, oh yeah, that's an easy warming up hamstring pose. That's a really hard warming up hamstring pose. I'm going to choose this, but actually I want to get a bit creative with it. I'm doing Firefly. My legs are out like this. I want to do extended head, this thing, nose to knee pose, okay? Nose to knee pose. But I'm going to take my leg out to the side, and then I'm going to put my knee out to the side. Or I'm going to take my leg up, then I'm going to let it go. So my leg floats up in the air, and then I'm going to lean over it. I can be creative with all of those poses, bringing in the elements, the shapes of the pose, and the flexibility of the pose. Okay, so what flexibility do you think crow needs? Compared, which pose needs more flexibility? Firefly or crow?
Firefly.
Firefly, right? Which is why your crow sequence is a lot of shape creation, which you can do with Firefly as well. But crow needs no flexibility. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say no, a very tiny bit of flexibility. It probably requires more flexibility in your ankles getting down and your quads to be able to squat down than anything else, right? And wrists. But can we do anything about wrists in terms of flexibility?
We can just do these turns. I often do them after using my wrists.
You absolutely can, but I think, Nagar, that doing this is more a mobility work. What they say is motion is lotion. So that means that when your wrists are feeling a little bit funny, then if we move, you know, it's like having stiff hamstrings. You go, oh, I don't want to do it. But after you've moved a bit, it feels better. But we can't actually increase the flexibility of our wrists. Okay? Well, if, you know, when we do this, that's as far as it's going to go, because the bones crash into the bones. Okay? What flexibility of wrists, and this is an aside, this does not happen within one class. You can increase your tolerance to taking your wrists. If you look at mine, I've increased my tolerance. I can't straighten my arm because I'm sitting down, but I can go way over now. But that took about 5 years of work. And it's more that I haven't got it's more a tolerance to, it's not uncomfortable for me. It was when I started. So we can't really increase the flexibility in a class. We can certainly increase the tolerance over time, but in class, you know, that's what's going to happen. But you could definitely, as a cool down, if you felt that this was a nice thing and people really liked it, add wrist movements into your cool down, okay? But we can't, pretty much in crow, there is not much in terms of flexibility that we can work with. We have to create shapes around. So we think, you know, there isn't a huge amount of core used in most people's Bakasana. Most people are hanging into it. But definitely, if we look at it being the most advanced version of Bakasana, where you're on your knees are on here and your arms are straight, then we can start working core, which is what you do in your class, okay? But Firefly requires way more flexibility. Which one, Firefly or Crow, do you think requires the most strength?
Crow.
Firefly.
Ah, you see, again, and I don't know. I actually don't know what the answer is. You'd have to get a force plate and measure it, and it probably change depending on the person. It's probably even Stephen.
Would that depend? Sorry.
Oh, Pauline, there you go. Now I have to like go, because the yellow thing always moves around. There you go. Sorry, Pauline, carry on.
The amount of strength you will need for a pose, like Firefly, wouldn't that depend also a bit on the amount of flexibility that you have? Because you, depending on where your legs can rest or not, or onto your body, that will increase the amount of strength you need or not. Am I correct in saying that?
Completely correct. So this is another way of looking at it. So if we took one person who is able to do both poses fully, right? Well, with a straight-armed crow and quite a high-legged Firefly, the strength requirements in the arms would be similar in both poses. So that's slightly different. In crow, you're leaning quite far forward, so it's more front of the arms. In Firefly, you actually don't lean as far forward. It's more of a tricep workout. Strange enough, it's slightly back, but it's pretty much the same thing. But what Lily is saying is that if you're not flexible, and this is all in the Firefly videos, the pose analysis videos, if you are not able to do an okay pancake, wide-legged forward fold, to get into Firefly, and we'll do it now, and you'll see it in yourself, to get into Firefly is way harder, okay? We can't create shelves, and I'm going to show you how we look at this later, okay? We can't create any shelf because if you've got to be so flexible that your legs can go up this high and rest over here, which means you have to be fairly flexible, okay? Maybe to here, about here is comfortable, okay? But most people only get halfway down, right? And then, unless they're bending their arms like this, right? There is a shelf they can rest. If they're trying to straighten their arms, that means they have no shelf. So this is what Lily's saying. If they've got no shelf, that means they're fundamentally doing what we call a straddle L-sit. So that means your legs are wide and you're just pushing into the ground and lifting your legs up, which requires hectic strength. I know, because it took me a long time to do them, all right, like really, really long time. It requires quad strength, hip flexor strength, abdominal strength, adductor squeezing in, so way, way harder, and is almost never practiced in yoga because it's too hard. Like literally, it's very, very difficult to do. So yes, that's absolutely right, and this is why we have to look at you guys in the pose. So we're looking at those elements: strength, flexibility, and then we want to add in skill. And this is all in your pose analysis template, which we'll take a look at in a minute. So that means, okay, now you've only had a few weekends with Taryn. So what would you say are common skill instructions for arm balances?
Focus point.
Richtig.
Point, Amy. Yes, exactly, guys. Focus point. You have to look. If you do not look to where you want to go. And I probably say it in the videos, but it was my husband who said the thing when I think I went mountain biking once and never again because I didn't like it. I like handstands, that's it kind of thing. And then he said, because they would hit rocks, and he said, do not look at the rocks. If you look at the rocks, you're going to hit the rocks. Look where you want to go. And it's completely, I don't know if any of you have had that experience. You want to look, your drishti, I'm going to there. And you'll see when you do it yourself, I'm sure you've experienced it, and when you teach, people look down. They look down, and down is not where you want to go. That's the very thing that we all don't want to do in crow, right? Do not go down, head down, bad thing. We want to go forward. It's a little bit up, but we want to go forward. So yes, what else? What else is a skill point?
How to create the shelf on the arms.
Yes, brilliant, Francesca. Creation of shelf, where to put your legs. If you don't have a shelf, you're going to have to be doing Lily's version of Firefly, Crow, all of those things where you're floating your legs mid-air and holding them up, okay? So yes, creation of shelf, brilliant. Then what else?
And knowing that you have to lean into the pose?
Leaning forward, yes. You have to lean. If you don't, your feet won't come up, all right? So all of those things are incredibly important, and those are the skills that you are going to try and bring, and this we'll talk a little bit more later, into your actual sequencing, okay? So in things like crow, you've got it in your class where you're lying on your back or you're sitting, and then you bring you're creating a shelf like this, okay? This contact point where you go, that is my shelf. Your arm is slightly bent, you create the shelf. If you don't have a shelf, it's a problem, okay? The more flexible or flexibility requirements the pose has, the harder it is to create the shelf, okay? If you can't get your legs into the shape, the harder the pose is, okay? And this is all of the arm balances come under those three things, okay? How much strength do I have? What do my arms need to be doing? Some, we know that some arm balances have bent arms, others have straight arms, different variations, okay? Do I have enough strength to carry the load of me, right? It's you on top of your arms. That's the strength, okay? So a decent amount of strength. Flexibility. What are the legs doing? How flexible do I need to be, like, to get into this pose? If I'm in a pancake, a wide-legged forward fold, and I can only fold forward this much, my Firefly is not going to be, it's going to be a Straddle L-Sit. I'm going to have to float, right? If I'm here, easy peasy. On the 300-hour last year, there was this a woman called Martina. She lives in Cape Town, in Caps Bay. And she's tiny, I mean, tiniest little human being, massively flexible. And then we had everybody doing Firefly, and it's really hard pose. It's really hard for most of us, right? And then she is so light, her legs are so terribly light, and she's so flexible that she's almost upright. Her legs go so up high like this. So then I said to her, I was telling the group, so Martina will be able to just chat there for half an hour. And they were like, no. And I said, come, let's do this, all right? And I said, Martina, how do you feel? Oh, totally comfortable. She could stay there. I didn't keep her there but 5-10 minutes, and she'd probably get bored because there's no load on her. It's like she's standing upright. So there's no weight going forward that she has to fight against. She just goes back. She's got short legs, tiny legs, weight is low, and she's massively flexible, okay? Somebody else on the course, this was their forward fold. Not happening. It was one of the guys on the course, like really, really not so flexible in the hamstrings, not happening, but massively strong. So it could do like brilliant from chaturangas, then float and jump back. So all sorts of different things. And then we add the skill, strength, flexibility, and skill, okay? That's what you want to be looking at when you choose your pose, okay? And what you're going to do is, do you want me to go through the template with you, or are you quite happy with it? I can
No, go through.
Let's go through.
Okay, got to share a screen. Okay. All right. Okay. All visible here and happy. All right. So
Do you mind to tell us the page, Katrin?
the page is 33.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is you guys are going to go away. You're going to be taught or shown a lot of different poses this weekend. This is quite a big weekend for more complex poses. And so you can see how you go and you can figure it out and go, oh, I fancy that. You do not have to be able to do the pose in order to choose to do the pose, okay, as your analysis. But you have to understand the pose, okay? So most of the time it's easier if you can do the pose, or if you can do, you know, as we always say, poses are in progressions. So you may not be able to straighten your legs in Firefly. You may be able to just wriggle into the shape a bit, and then maybe you can then straighten one leg and you might be, okay, that's quite cool. I'm going to do Firefly. I can recognize that it needs a lot of flexibility requirements of hamstrings and adductors, and then I'm going to figure that out and I can put it in the pose. So you're going to choose one after this weekend, okay? Then the first thing that you're going to hand in, and I think it's due on the 8th of May, but you guys can look that up, okay, is this page here, right? It's just one page of work, and I really want you to be clear on it, okay? Because if you get this right, and you all will, all right, most of the things have got videos. If you want to choose something else that, you know, I haven't got a video on, run it past me and I'll say, okay, well, what do you think needs to be done? And you give me a little rundown, I'll say, you're good to go, all right? What I don't want is you leaping ahead, because if we don't get this right and then you go to the next stages of the sequencing and it's wrong, you're gonna have wasted a lot of time. So it's just for your benefit, okay? So the first thing, pose analysis. So this is side crow. What is it? It's an arm balance and a twist. So I don't want anything massively complicated and a million joint movements. I just want what's important, okay? And you guys have got all the anatomy work you've got. It's like what's important, and you narrow it down. So we wouldn't want to even go into wrist extension, because we think, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So we're not going to bring it into our sequence, but it is something to be concerned about, and it is definitely something that we can, as we were talking earlier, can be used in our cool down poses. So main pose movements, okay? So that's your joint movements. What is it? Shoulder push, okay? Don't worry about this. Protraction, okay? It's pushing your shoulders into the ground, right? With spinal rotation, a twist, okay? That's the main movement of crow. If you can't do the pose and you want to be able to do something like side crow, then you can actually just feel it without doing the pose. You know, you do go down to the ground, put yourself in the position and go, what's happening here? All right. What needs to be warmed and stretched? Not much, right? In crow. We've already spoken about if this was Firefly, we'd have the shoulder push into the ground, but we'd know, wow, those legs are wide leg forward legs, and we know what that requires, okay? What needs to be strong? Arms, shoulders, wrists, push, okay? Keep it simple, right? And yes, you can absolutely, as Lily said, go, well, you know, somebody's not flexible, they would need to have strong quads, strong adductors, etc., etc. Okay. Little bit of core can come into it, but really inside crow, we don't really use it, but it's not a drama if you want to add it in, okay? What action, what skill is needed? And you guys covered all that, okay? What will tire? Wrists, okay? Other, fear, okay? This is a big problem, right? Rate the pose out of 5 for skill, flexibility, and strength. So there we've given it a 5, okay? more, if think about it, you know, if you guys can knock out side crow and it's like, oh, it's not that hard, then, you know, think about it in terms of teaching. You know, people like when you couldn't do side crow, it's tricky. It's got to be, you've got to create the shelf, you've got to do a whole load of things. It's a tricky pose to get into, to understand. Okay? Flexibility, we know not very much. If it was Firefly, that flexibility would be a good 3 or 4. It's not an absolute exact answer. It's just much more a kind of, so that you know that side crow doesn't require so much flexibility. So it's going to be more of a, similar to Bakasana, shape orientated. So we're doing lots of twists and things like that throughout our pose, okay? We don't really need to stretch terribly much out. Not a drama if we do. Like if we're doing twisted triangle or twisted half moon, not a drama at all if we do those, yeah? We know that it requires skills, got to be brought into it, and it requires strength. 3, 4, not as much strength as something like straight arm crow, but certainly some strength work, so we need a little bit of that. But this is just really analyzing the actual pose, okay? We're not going any further than that. And then the next, pose modifications, options easier to hard of final version. So this is where you would go, okay, and it's all in the little videos. If you're going to choose one of those, you would go, okay, what can I do in the final pose version of crow? What shape? So in something like Bakasana, it would be Malasana, squat first, right? Then it would be drawing your arms in and leaning a little bit forward, right? Maybe then one toe comes up, right? That's your third thing. Maybe then another one comes up. Maybe then you can straighten your arms. And this is all in the videos and actually in the manual as well. There's a progression of the pose, and that's important for us to know for teaching and for you to explore your pose as well. Okay, any questions on that? No, we all good? Okay, all right. And then your next thing is, this is for you. I can't do the pose, okay? So all good either way. It does not matter to me whether you can do the pose or not. I'm much more interested in your understanding and maybe you working through it, okay? So this is just an explore. Flexibility, we know it doesn't require very much, but I can't see to twist to get my thigh high up my arm. I can't create the shelf, okay? Maybe my legs are quite wide. Maybe I can't get my heels down on the ground. It's making it quite tricky, and explore around flexibility. So if we were talking about Firefly, you could then go, well, actually, I've noticed that in my wide-legged forward fold, I can hardly get down towards the ground. I feel like my hamstrings aren't as flexible as they would need to be. But in Firefly, I find that if in a wide-legged forward fold, if I bend my legs a little bit, then I can fold a little bit further. So maybe in Firefly, I can do it where I just keep my legs a little bit bent at first. So it's an exploration of you, the individual in the pose. Okay. Strength. How would we tell if someone, yourself, was strong enough to do one of the arm balances?
Doing the chaturanga, leaning forward.
Yes. So, and how would you assess that, Francesca? Because that's really good. So how would you assess? Because most people can kind of lean forward and then collapse a little bit. So how would you assess it?
You make them working down slowly.
Working down slowly, absolutely. So working really, really slowly, or holding, okay? Holding plank, holding chaturanga, those little things. That if you cannot hold a plank, then, you know, if you were going in to teach a class and you thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to try an arm balance today. And then you saw that everybody in plank was just shaking after 3 seconds, it would give you a kind of indication that maybe they're not strong enough yet. And the same thing as Francesca's example of lowering slowly to chaturanga. If people just couldn't, they just bang, and they're falling on the floor, it would give us an indication that maybe they're not ready to, or not, you know, to do the full pose. They may be ready to get into the shape and maybe to come up onto their toes in side crow, or maybe even to lift one toe off the ground, but maybe their strength isn't quite there to do the final pose as yet. Okay. And then skill, you would explore the skill that you've said the pose needs. Okay. You could say, I'm really scared. So every time I've noticed when I video myself, I look down at the ground because it's too scary to look forward. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and put a pillow in front of my face. Does that help? Okay. We used to make, and I apologize, it's still in the videos. This is the first course that we've only ever done one pose analysis. We normally do 3. Okay, but it's too much. It's really hard work, and we make you take pictures and we make you video. So it's too much when it's a lot of it is online as well. So, you know, if you don't know with all of these things, video yourself with the skill. You know from what you've learned what the skill requirements are, so you can go, okay, video yourself trying the pose, and then go, oh, I can see that in crow my bum's really, really high up, or I can see that my arm isn't connected to my thigh properly in side crow. It's like, seems to be at my knee. Oh, look, I'm not looking forward, or in side crow it's more of a diagonal look. I'm actually looking forward. I'm a bit confused. So you explore around the skill of the pose. I'm just going to stop sharing now so we can ask questions. Okay, any questions? All good?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So in this one, we just have to follow this template. We don't have to add the pose like from the easy to the difficult one. We don't have to do the sequence, let's say.
No, you're not doing the sequence yet. This is the first thing that you hand in. We are going to talk a little bit about the next step after we've done some moving, but you just answer all those questions on that A4 page, because once you get that, then we can move to the next section. Okay. If that's wrong, then it makes the next section all wrong. Okay, so the sooner you get it in, and you know, because this is quite pressurized work, but you've got quite a big but almost, you know, a lot of more time now. Okay, but I would strongly recommend that you get it in as quickly as you can, and then I can fix it, and then you can move on to the next stage quite easily. Okay, so just follow that, exactly what it says. Just fill it in, and what you can do is you can just, you know, just do it exactly like that is the best thing to do. Okay, and what I can do is, if it's easier for you, if you want me to send you a Word document so you can just fill it in right next to it, then just put it on the group, and then I will send you a Word document, and then you can literally just fill it in right next to thing, rather than me typing or whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, just let me know. All right, any questions about that?
Yes, Catherine, this is probably, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's too slow. I'll see you.
So when we've been allocated our peak sequence, so for example, I'm a forward bend sequence that I'll need to be teaching. This is not that, this is separate, right?
Totally separate, completely separate. Yeah. So that's.
So okay.
Karen, Angie, you broke.
No, just making sure. The disconnection.
She's like.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep talking when you talk. So basically, I can choose any peak pose here. It doesn't need to be a forward bend just because I'm teaching a forward bend class. Okay.
Absolutely right. So those ones that you've been allocated, forward bend, back bend, arm balance, that's your teaching sequence. It's written there, it's on video. Your job is to memorize that. Okay, like go memorize it. Okay? And that's it. But this is totally separate. This is you putting a sequence together of your choice of final pose in the sequence. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay.
What was the deadline for the actual filling in a template? Because I understood that we need to send you the pose by the end of this weekend, but then the template needs to be filled out by the 8th. Is that correct?
I haven't got the date on me now because it's not here.
Ah, no worries.
Yeah, it's the 8th.
It's the 8th of May, and then you've got things after that. I think it's the 8th. Yes, Amy's just looked and she said it's the 8th of May.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, try to get it in earlier because the work after that is the time-consuming stuff. This is actually, it's not that hard. If the anatomy work required has done all the work, you should be at a stage now where you can just look, fill it in, and understand it pretty much because you all answered the anatomy work pretty much perfectly, and you've got the understanding. So it should be fairly quick, and it's just more of an explore for your body. And of course, if you're choosing one of the videos, one of the poses that I've covered in the little videos, then you just go and have a look at that, and each one's, I can't remember, 10, 15 minutes, I'm not sure. It depends what's being covered, but they're not very long. So try and get that one done, and then because we'll go on to the next section, and that'll take you a little bit more time. Okay, so it's the middle section that we've got to get really, really right. The next thing that you have to hand in, and then after that, it's just more time consuming because you have to make it into a 60-minute sequence. But it's not rocket science. It's just the middle section is very important. So yeah, get it in as soon as you can. All right. Do you want to break, and then I want to work through some poses with you and then talk a little bit in between about the next section of it so you have an idea where you're going. Do you want to break for 10 minutes? Yes, nod, yes. Okay, cool. Let's look at the time. All right. So shall we say, let's count 7 minutes. So come back at, let's 15-minute break. You happy? Try not to eat because you're going to be going upside down. I mean, you can if you're fine with it. Whatever. Okay, come back at 6:10, and what I would like you to have done is I want your mats lined up with a wall behind you, and if possible your camera's facing side on. So if you look at my mat behind and there's a wall there, if it can be like that, if possible, that would be great. You don't have to be sitting on your mat, but when we're going to work on inversions first, and kind of workshop it a little bit, so it can also be pose choices for you if you want to. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, guys. I will see you at 6:10. Okay. All right. See you later.
She's changed her mind. Now she wants us to do poses. Upside down poses, and I'm drinking. Huh? No, we're on a break for 15 minutes. She can finish me.
Hi, we can hear you talking. Mute yourself. Okay, guys. We're going to start with inversions, and we're going to do it. Some of you may be happy in inversions. Is anybody happy kicking up into a handstand or a headstand kind of in the middle of the room? I can't see everybody's cameras, but so Amy's happy. Francesca's happy. I'm happy.
Definitely not a handstand.
Definitely not a handstand, but a headstand. Okay, cool.
Yeah, headless headstand.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I am in the headstand also, and I lately start to try forearm stand, but
good.
Try.
Yeah, that's I can't. Probably the biggest bit of advice I could give to you that I wish somebody had told me, I don't think I would have listened, in all honesty. But if somebody had just told me this stuff never ends, it's like it just never ends. There's always something you can't do that you want to do, perhaps, or something that's just harder and you've got to work a long time at it, or whatever. And so we're always in that stage. It doesn't matter how accomplished you are in handstands, whatever, there's always something else that you can't do. So it's just be so happy in your practice and be, progressions. That's where we're all at, right? It's just a thing. And it's also progressions in things that we may want to do, okay? Most of us only want to really work on things that we want to do, okay? But as teachers, so you might be thinking here, you know what, I really couldn't give a damn about inversions, I'm not interested, whatever. But as a teacher, you need to be able to understand how they work and how to teach them. So even if you're a happy headstander in the middle of the room, I'll be with you now, Francesca. If you're a happy headstander in the middle of the room, you still need to be able to understand someone who's not and where to start them, and also understand somebody who is happy doing a handstand in the middle of the room. So it's like you've got to understand this whole range of people, because if you guys are going to teach, you're going to get them in your classes. Okay? I remember probably my first year of teaching, walking into to teach, and I was about 20 minutes early, and there was a guy. I couldn't do a handstand. I could do one against the wall, but I could not do one in the middle of the room. That was terrifying. But there was a guy he was just warming up, and he kicked up into a handstand, and he just stayed there for about 10 minutes. And this was before I started teaching. I was like, oh my word, like, that's the point. You get people that are more advanced than you, and most people that aren't as advanced as you. That's just the nature of the thing. Okay, so what we're going to work on today is we're going to work on, we call it headless headstand, but it's only really because your arms are like this. It's very similar to forearm balance, except your arms are like this, but fundamentally you're on your forearms. And we're going to work at handstand too. So what we're going to do is we teach them in the same way. It's just one's like that, one's like that. That's literally what the only difference is. So I'm going to start you guys. I'm going to I'm going to show you, and we're going to go through a couple of progressions first. So if we were going to teach this, if this, say, forearm balance, if this was our pose, probably the major thing that we would have to assess with our class is, do they have enough strength to hold themselves up there, right? Yeah. Same thing with handstand. So handstand, they'd have to be able to hold planks, decent downward dog. Downward dog is a really good basis for handstand because we're in shoulder flexion. We're dumping down on the shoulders in a very different way to plank, because plank's here, downward dog's up there, okay? So they're very good assessment tools in it. But what we'd want to do, and I'm going to just take you through the workshopped 10 minutes of forearm balance and handstand, and then you guys are going to do what I've done, and we're going to take it in stages. Okay, everybody good? All right? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, I totally forgot about you. Very rude. Sorry.
No, don't worry. I just making little bit confusion between arm balance and inversion. Can you please clarify for me, because I'm got very confused for some reason.
Oh, no, it's totally fine. In fact, inversions are arm balances as well, because we're on our arms. So theoretically, they are arm balances, but in the yoga world, we have this separate category called inversions. They're important in yoga. And that's literally when we're upside down. So inversions are arm balances, but you're upside down.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So we don't put them in the arm balances so much. We classify them as you are upside down. So even in Iyengar Yoga, Downward Dog is probably considered your first inversion because you are quite upside down. Okay. And then of course we've got headstand and your different variations of forearm balance, and of course your handstand. Those are our three big inversions that are kind of quite important in yoga. Does that make it clear, Francesca?
Yes. So basically crowd is arm balance, but it's not an inversion.
That's right, because crow, you're not upside down.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anything where you're upside down, where you're hanging your head down, which is what we don't want to do in arm balances. In arm balances, we want to go slightly forward. Okay, but anything where you like that shape, where you're hanging your head upside down, so inversion just means you've turned yourself upside down.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to make me big. Okay, go away. All right. Can you all see me big? Yes?
No.
No?
I think you have to change it on your own screen to pin someone.
Yeah, it depends on, you have to pin Catherine.
Hang on a second, I put myself in speaker view. There we go.
Everyone has to do that themselves. It doesn't matter actually what you do.
So there we go. Now can you see me?
No.
But that's weird because I'm pinned.
No, people have to pin you on their own.
Normally not. No, normally you just, I can do the other one. There's spotlighting and pinning. And now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to show you is the first couple of stages of both forearm balance and it, because they work in exactly the same way in terms of training people to do them. Okay. And then you guys are going to go and do this if you can. And do not give yourself a hard time if you're not ready to do these things. We're going to do them from the most basic steps upwards so that you understand what we're actually looking for. Okay, so don't beat yourself, just take it really, really slowly. So the first thing is, and I'll be close with this, is forearm balance. Your forearms are like this, okay? This shape. We're not doing actual forearm balance with your arms like this because it's pretty hard for most people. So we're just going to do this. And we're going to do it where our head is off the floor. So in headstand, tilt here. In headstand, we like this, okay? But what we're going to do for now is we're going to do this, okay? I've got to lift my arms in a bit of a weird way because I'm sure you guys know by now, I've got really short arms, okay? It's like it's a disaster, okay? So I'm going to lift myself up and I have to lift my head a little bit. You guys might be able to drop your head. Remember, we all measured our arms. The longer your arms, the more you can drop your head. Shorter your arms, the more you're going to have to lift your head. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk up the wall. So I'm going to show you from the side. Okay. All right. So this I'm going to do in a forearm balance way. Right? So I've got my arms like this. They are not this, and they're not this, okay? They're just kind of in line with my shoulder. This does not work in terms of measurement. Put them, literally look down. When you put yourself in position, your shoulder lines up with your elbow, pretty much, okay? This, if I do this and take it out, it makes the distance shorter. for my head to go to the ground, okay? We want them just in this line. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend down, go as close to the wall as I possibly can that's comfortable. I mean, don't go mad, but just be fairly comfortable. I'm going to create my shape, put myself on the floor, so I'm coming quite close to my knees. I'm not going into a plank shape. I'm coming quite close to my knees. My legs are bent. I'm going to push, look down, shoulders, elbow, press my wrists into the ground. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can come up, not into a dolphin, but to get myself onto the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my bum up a little bit, press into the ground, drop my head, can you see it's off the floor? And then I'm going to try and put one foot on the wall, pressing into the ground, 2 feet, and then maybe I can take myself up onto the wall. I don't want to do this, I want to drop my head, and can you see my head is off the ground? Okay? And then I'm going to come down really slowly and rest. Now, you may find that depending on hamstring length, you may have to go further away than what I was, but I want you in a diagonal, okay? It's impossible for us to get completely upright when we're facing the wall. The main thing is that your head is off the floor. It's hard, right? It's going to make you very, very strong. You may only feel comfortable to do 1 foot, and that's fine. Just come down and rest. Other foot, come down and rest, okay? The idea is that you push strongly into the ground. Okay. Any questions? Why is it gone all blurry? Or is it me? There we go, cancel spotlight. Okay. All right. Okay, does anybody have any questions? No? You're all good. All right, so what I want you to do is, first thing is no sleeves. No sleeves on the ground, okay? That is, and this is like a #1 rule for you and your teacher. If you've got sleeves on, you can slide out. And with arm balances and with inversions, we don't want any sliding of any kind, okay? So questions if you've got, otherwise you're going to just position yourself at the wall and just wait, okay? Because I want to be able to see you all. Okay. Okay, so place your arms on the ground. So place your arms in this action on the ground and then look to see that your shoulders and your elbows line up-ish. You know what I mean? It's not like a drama. And if you haven't done this before, expect to feel like you're working a lot, okay? All right, now press into the ground. If you feel uncomfortable to put 1 foot on the wall, you feel a little bit too close, then move away a little bit. And now see where you go. Go slow. Excellent, guys. Akila, don't change it, but I think your arms are a little bit too wide. Alicia, Ella, you're rocking it. Nice. Inka, wow, look at you guys. You rock. Angie, can you straighten one leg? Ah, there she goes. Nice one. And there she goes. Excellent. Negar, drop your bum a little bit. Lorata, you're rocking it. Excellent. Alicia, watch those hammies, hey, going up. All right, guys. And then come down. Christina, drop your bum a little bit more. I can only see half of you, but that's what. Come down and rest. Well done, guys. Okay. Can you feel how strong that is?
Yes.
Yeah? It's really strong. But who was anybody nervous of inversions before this? Nagar, you were nervous of inversions. Okay, and Severine too. And Inka. Okay, so we're talking quite a few people. Angie, I don't know if your arm's up or you're holding something. I'm not sure. You're just holding something.
I'm extremely nervous of inversions.
Okay, So this is why I don't talk about the fear of inversions first before I make you do this, because this is really, really key for your teaching and for you. 99.9% of people are not scared of going upside down. All of you went upside down. You were inverted, right? All of you were absolutely fine. You had great lines. You did everything. So most people are not scared of the actual action of being upside down. What are they scared of?
Falling
back.
Falling. Quite sensibly so, right? So most people don't feel when they walk up the wall like that they're going to fall. Did anybody feel like they were at risk of falling? No. You see, you felt secure, right? You walk up in your own measured way. You're pressing into the ground. You're building incredible strength. I would really strongly recommend doing these and building up your strength, because we know when we build up strength in these ways, our nervous system changes and it goes, ooh, I feel quite good up here. I trust me up here. Okay, so this is a fantastic technique for building strength, for getting people who are not used to inversions to go up in the wall and to start working with fear as well. So these are all things that you would bring in if you were doing your peak pose sequence with an inversion. What you would do is do a sequence and then you would move to the wall and we would progressively work up the wall, okay? Giving different options for different people. And that's the first one. And I've honestly never seen, and I have taught elderly, well, actually same age as me, but people that haven't actually done any exercise. I've taught absolute beginners, and you can get people to go up the wall like that. You can get them to build strength. They generally feel quite good about it. And it's a nice way to start introducing. I mean, you need a wall and you can't do it in a vinyasa class. But as far as I'm concerned, kicking randomly into the middle of the room in the middle of a vinyasa class, if you can, otherwise just breathe, does not help anybody. It doesn't help them get used to inversions. It doesn't teach and it doesn't build strength, which is my thing. It's mental and physical strength. Okay, well done, guys. That was excellent. Okay, so now we're going to take it to doing it in handstand. Okay, so, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the kick up. So we're just going to do the wall version. I don't want you to feel too tired going up. I want you to feel confident so that your mind becomes used to it. Okay, so don't push yourself. It doesn't matter because this is very different to this. Okay, some people go, oh no, this feels much better. Other people go, oh, I like this. I trust myself much more like this. Okay, so I'm going to do the handstand version. It's fundamentally the same. It's just different strength, much more shoulder strength. Okay, but not as much pressing down into the ground strength. Okay, pinning my video, not pinning, spotlighting my video. All right. Okay. Okay. So handstand, it's exactly the same thing. We want people to feel confident and to introduce themselves into handstand. So what we do is we start in a kind of a downward dog thing, because like I was saying earlier, that in downward dog, you're inverted. But we need to make it quite a short downward dog. So Ella, I really need you to bend your knees if you're going to do it, or start on the ground, one of the two, so that you're not stretching your hamstring. So you start in a kind of shortish downward dog. Okay, I can go quite close because I'm fairly flexible here, but you may find you have to go further away, or you may find you have to bend your knees. I'm going to do it with bent knees just so you can see, because it's the same thing. I place my hands as close in as comfortable, right? I can go to here, but you may find there's comfortable. With handstand, you pretty much want your fingers spread, not like this and not cupping to the side, spread, flat, and in line with your shoulders-ish, okay? You can start using drishti here. So normally we look about here, it's like a little triangle, like that. Just lift your head a little bit and look at your drishti. If you remember to do that, might not be there yet. The thing that often happens in handstand is people slightly bend their arms. Normally not in this, walking up, but with a kick up, this up. So what I want you to do is find your place and then your triangle and push into the wall. Okay, all right. So bent legs, if that's an easier version for you. Same things, I look, I press into the ground. I'm not going to let my arms bend. Straight, push into the ground, and then same thing. One leg at the wall, and the minute I lift this foot, there's going to be a load. I need to push. 2 legs up on the wall. Then, if I can, another leg up, and then try and drop your bum. Okay? Push into the ground. This is harder. With your feet, when you're coming up and down, you need to push into the wall, so don't have a sliding wall or cream on your feet. And then come down. Okay, questions. I go very red upside down. It's kind of red anyway. Oh, Cheryl's rocking it already. She's not even waiting. Bum down, Cheryl. Bum down towards the wall. Yes. Okay. Not so much. Not so much. There. Cheryl's got some strength. All right, guys, find your way to only do what you feel ready. Loratu, do not fall over. Just have fun. Okay, have fun. See what you can do. Remember, you have to push into that wall. Yes, Ella, good. Okay, nice, Yvette, good. Drop your head a little bit. Severine, drop your bum a little bit. Francesca, drop your bum a little bit. Christine, wow, guys. Amy, you're too close to the wall. Okay. Angie, drop your head. Well done. Okay, guys. And then, that's it, Amy. You're just too close. That's it. And then come down when you're ready. Yes, Amy, good. Good. Okay, you guys are rocking this. That's amazing. Yes, Amy, nice. Nice coming down. Okay. How did that feel?
Crazy. I didn't think I could do it.
Who's speaking? Who's speaking? Oh, Nagat. Yes. Yay. And you can, right?
Yes.
You can. To me, that is, so if the gymnasts, what they would do is they would start you off in that position. And then as you got stronger, they walk you very close to, you start walking on your hands close to the wall, which I never teach in yoga except to very advanced people because it's quite scary and it's quite hard to move your arms. But this is a very good way. And can you feel how strong it is? You have to work, right? So imagine how strong your arms would be if you were able to hold both of those, forearm and this, for 30 seconds. Your downward dog would feel like you could have a cup of tea there, right? Your arm balances will get 1,000 times more comfortable and better because you're building up the right shoulder strength for those particular poses. Adding chaturanga negatives and push-ups, you sorted. Okay, Angie?
Catherine, a question about the drishti and where we're supposed to be looking. So I was first looking at my spot, but then you told me to drop my head. So must I, when I'm straight, must I look back at the wall?
So I told you to drop your head right at the end only because you were there for so long. Okay, the problem when you're in that angle and you're trying to look at your drishti, you have to actually lift your head almost too much. Like you don't lift your head that much in a handstand. You just don't, okay? So I just didn't want you to get too, I wanted you to kind of look as you went up and then just drop your head at the end of it, just because it's not the right angle. Do you know what I mean? It's like, your arms are here, so you have to kind of look like this, whereas a handstand looking there. That's all it was, but I didn't want to explain it to you while you're upside down. Okay, Nagar.
Yeah, I have another question. So going up and then holding myself up there, I felt that it needed a lot of strength in my core also. After a while, I started, you know, kind of shivering, or I don't know.
Okay. So on that note, I'm going to do something that's really nasty to you guys. Okay. Well, it's not nasty. It's going to make me laugh a lot. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. You are right. Handstand itself, when it's like this, requires almost no core. It's like standing upside down. But you're doing a diagonal on the wall. So it's very, very, very different. So what I want you to understand is what requires core and what doesn't require core. So I'm going to show you now the next thing I want you to do, and then we're going to turn around and not necessarily kick up. I just need to teach you how to kick up or to pull.
I just have one more question before we do that. My hands were in the wrong place. How far away, I mean, how small should your downward dog be? How close should your hands be to the wall?
There's no absolute answer. It depends on how tall you are, how long your legs are, how flexible you are. It's a fiddle around. It depends on,
Okay.
So the closer you can get in, the easier it is. The more you are, and this is what I'm going to show you now, the further away you are, the harder it is, okay? So it really is a bit of a fiddle for you. Initially, it's just enough. You were just too close so that your legs didn't have enough space to get onto the wall.
Okay.
You literally just couldn't, there was no space to get your legs there. It had nothing to do with anything else. You know, you need space so that your legs can be bent. So you need like that space. And then you can walk up the wall. That's all it was, you know. And you look quite tall. I'm not sure, but and yeah. So that it's just a bit of a fiddle, really. And people with super long hamstrings can go really close in and then take their leg out to the side straight and put it up on the wall. So it's one of those things you just sort of got to play. All right. So I want you guys to try this because I want you to feel what the difference is and why people often say, oh, handstand requires so much core and handstand's the hardest, and it is the hardest, but not for core reasons or strength reasons. And I just want you to try this so that you experience what hard is or what core hard is, hopefully, anyway, if you can do it. Okay. All right. So this is our last one. We call these wall holds. So literally holding against the wall. So you were doing it almost in a downward dog shape. So now I want you to do it where you are almost in a plank shape. Okay? So your arms are there and you're holding and holding there. Okay? And I want you to feel what the difference is with that. Okay, off you go. I've given you an easier version than the horrible version I was going to cancel. Spotlight. Okay. Right, bum down, Cheryl, way down. Walk your legs way down the wall, much lower. Plank. So plank on the wall. Okay, Francesca, way low. You're way too high. Bum down, Cheryl. Bum down. This is what's going to be hard. Angie, way lower down. You guys, Inka, good. Lower down, even more. Even more. I can see slightly. Cheryl, bum down. Sorry, I'm being really mean. Akila, you way too high up. Nagar, you way too high up. Lerato, woo! That's strong. Lily, a little bit lower down. And Yvette, okay, come down, guys. Okay, so what was happening with most of you is you very high up the wall, which is much easier. When you come down to almost straightish, that's when it gets a little bit harder. But these are also, something like that is a really good workout if you can get low enough for things like Bakasana, crow, because your arms are in that particular shape. Okay, that's just for fun. Yes, Severine, that's good. Okay, that's very good. All right, good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it around, and this does not mean you have to kick up or do anything. I need you to understand the different ranges in terms of kick ups and that type of thing. Okay, so I'm going to do it with forearm balance and then handstand. Okay, what I want you to understand, and this is pertinent to your sequences, is that we've just said earlier The biggest fear is not being upside down, it's falling over. And normally that fear comes from the kick up, because the kick up requires you to do that, okay? And that, for most people, adds a whole other element, and it does, than just holding dead still, okay? The minute you add momentum, as it's called, so the force, it means that your arms have to be moving, okay? So when you kick up into a handstand or into forearm balance, your shoulders move, they have to. Your hips move, they have to. Your legs move, they have to, okay? So there is that feeling of momentum of going forward. And the main thing that we have that helps us a little bit, besides skill, because these are skill poses mainly, is the more flexible you are, the easier it is to kick up, okay? I'm going to show you exactly what happens. The less flexibility you have in your hamstrings, I'm talking about, sorry, I wasn't specific, the more force you have to use to get up there, okay? So that's the same thing when you start adding jumping. You have to force yourself up, and the minute we bring all that stuff in is the minute people get nervous, okay? As you all know, I think, in this group, okay? Me too, same thing. I was not born doing handstand. I literally only did a handstand in the middle of the room, I think, and I always forget the year, but in my late 40s, 46, 47, somewhere around there, okay? So I came to this stuff late, and I was terrified. I was like, oh, absolutely terrified. I don't know if I told you guys already, I actually ended up going to a kids circus person, acrobatic guy, because he, did I tell you this? I can't remember.
No.
No, because he had a big room full of cushions. So it was for those of you that live in Cape Town, it was a guy in Komaki, and huge, those big spongy cushions on the floor. And then kids would go there and like play around the acrobat, kick up, and then fall onto cushions. So I phoned him and said, would he help me to do a handstand in the middle of the room? And then I went to him and then walked into the middle of the room, and he said, just kick up. And I was like, no. And he went, just kick up. What's going to happen? You're just going to fall like that. And then I kicked up and I was like, oh, it's just like that. It was, the fear went within 3 seconds. And then I came back and was like, oh, it's just like that. That's how you come out of it. It really wasn't a big deal. But my fear, probably from the time that I started learning handstands in my 40s, I was terrified for years. So it's completely and utterly normal, and most people are not. Unless they do gymnastics as a kid, most people are scared of this. Okay, so I'm going to show you now. Okay, so I'm going to show you in handstand because it's much more obvious, all right? Because I've got short arms in Headless Headstand. So if my hamstrings aren't that flexible, I'm going to be almost in this shape. I'm going to be quite far away, maybe even with bent legs like this, okay? So that means in order to get up, it's going to be really, really hard. I'm going to have to throw myself up. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do it in a second, okay? Bring my leg into the middle, and then I'm going to have to and kick and come up really hard. And for you guys, that might not look like I'm kicking really hard, but I really am kicking hard. Whereas if my hamstrings are long, I can walk in, I can take my leg really high up, and then I can just bend and come up with almost no force whatsoever. Because I can walk in and because I can take the top leg high up, okay? So that I need you to know for your pose sequences, your pose analysis if you're choosing handstand, or forearm balance, okay? It's the same thing with forearm balance. I'm just not that great at demonstrating because my head goes towards the floor because my arms are short. But the same thing, if my hamstrings aren't, I have to kick up, okay? If my hamstrings are long, I can walk in, take a leg up, and literally float my leg up.
Wow.
Okay? Because that's because my hamstrings are long. So remember in arm balances, we talk about the leaning forward. So we're talking about the lever, the seesaw, remember. So I have to lean as far forward as I need to lean for my legs to come up. And that's me moving weight, okay? I'm moving my weight. When I take my leg, when I get into any inversion, I have to get my hips over my shoulders. That's the key, okay? If my hips are over here, and I don't let them come over my shoulders, I can't get up. If I'm over here because of my hamstrings being long, then I'm going to have to whack myself up to get up. But if I walk in, look, I'm taking, my hips are already over my shoulders because I'm taking this top leg up. And then my bottom leg just floats up. Same thing in handstand. Sorry, I get all red upside down. Okay? Same thing in handstand. I need to get my hips over my shoulders. So the more I can take that top leg up, often we do handstand coming into it from this way, and that's more momentum I'm going to teach you just from the ground. The more I can take the hip up, the more my hips are in line, the less, that wasn't very, the less I have to kick up. Okay? Okay. So, I just want to show you positionings now. Cancel the spotlight. Any questions around the hamstrings? Does it make sense? Francesca?
Maybe I don't see it why, but I understand why this in a handstand, but in the forearm, isn't easier to bring the leg forward first?
Not if you have if your hamstrings aren't flexible, you can't bring the legs forward. It's same for both poses. You
like bend it. I mean, I mean like this, like.
Yes, but you can only do that because your hamstrings are still flexible enough to bring your hips over. If your hamstrings, you have to be able to get the hips over. So what you did was you bent your legs, you pulled one in, and then your hips went over your shoulders. But for people who aren't flexible, it'll look a little bit more. I'm going to change my video because I'm going to show you stuff there anyway. Okay, for people who aren't flexible, they can't even get more than here. So even if they bring them into the chest, it's still this. When you did it, you walked in and you got here. Can you see the difference, Francesca? So,
yes, now that you're showing, I can see it, yeah.
But if I come really close in, then it's right on top anyway. So it's all about whatever the person can do to get the hips over. Okay? And the hamstrings often get in the way. What can also get in the way of the bent leg version is the width of your leg. Okay? If your legs are wider, and also how heavy your legs are. If you've got, my legs are much heavier, I'm quite short in my upper body, my arms are, they're fairly strong, but they're quite small. My legs are much bigger, okay? And other people, there's some of you, I was watching other, who is it? Who's the tall person in the group? Lily's tall, somebody else?
Amy's tall.
Yeah, and there's somebody else, looking on the right, but I can see the taller people, if they don't have hamstring flexibility, and people with legs that are much heavier than their upper body, they find it even harder to get up because they've got more weight to get up. So if somebody's got not so flexible hamstrings, a heavier leg in proportion to their upper body, it makes the pose difficult, or not difficult, more difficult. They can still do it, but it's going to require more momentum to get up, and we also have to work different ways of getting up. So now what I want to show you is, and you're not expected to kick up or anything, I just need to show you what to do, okay? So with forearm balance first, not so difficult, keep your head off the ground, okay? So I'm going to look up a little bit, so my head's going, I'm sorry about this, but my arms are really badly short. Okay, I want your head off the ground, like it was when we were on the wall, right? If possible. So then you're going to do your arm placement. Your head is off the ground. Okay, I'm going to look up as much as I can in this pose. And then what you need to do is walk in as much as you can. I can only walk into there, not because I'm not flexible, because my head crashes into the ground because of my shoulder. Then you're going to take one leg up. So one leg is brought in, whichever your bouncing leg is. And then it's a bounce, okay? You're going to flick your leg, even if you just do this, and then maybe you can flick up, okay? Maybe it's a little hop, and then maybe a little more of a flick, okay? But the idea is that one leg gets brought, whichever leg feels natural, gets brought to the midline, okay? I'm showing you in handstand as well, and it bends. And you can't have your foot flat. This is a thing that people make a mistake about all the time. It's the same in whichever pose. So in handstand, okay, I line my wrists over my shoulders and I'll instruct you. I step my leg in a bit, okay? You can see this leg, but now it's got to bend, okay? Because I need a spring. I'm not just whipping this leg like that. I need a spring. And then what happens is I press into my hands and then spring. And you may just spring a little bit, and you may just spring a little bit more, okay? But it's the action of this, okay? And if you can, that top leg high. But we're going to start slow with this, and I don't want anyone going mad, please. Okay. Gallery view. All right, line up for headless headstand, not handstand first. Okay. Headless headstand, Nigar. Good, Francesca. Is your head off the ground?
Yeah.
Excellent. Forearm balance work. Okay, now step one foot in a little bit and then try a little bit of a hop or not. Take your top leg high. That's the most important thing. Severine, take your top leg up in the air. Oh, there she goes. Okay, I was expecting just a little bit. Don't look at the camera. Okay. Whoa, Veronica, you okay?
Sure.
Cool, cool. Okay, go slow. Just try and bend that leg. Yes, that's it, Amy. Try and bend the leg. That's it. Yvette, that's perfect. It's the jumping that counts. Yay. Okay, so it's that springing leg that is the most important. Yeah, this is tough stuff. Angie, I would try and, yes, that's it. Good. So, you're a good example. Yes, good. Nice, Lily, good. Okay, don't go mad. We're going to do handstand afterwards. Okay. Okay. You can see the addicts because the addicts don't stop. I can do a 2-hour handstand workshop and the addicts will carry on after the 2 hours and it's pretty much all handstands. Okay, all right. There is something very special about going upside down. I have no idea what it is. Well done, Severine. You can see Severine's not stopped. Okay, but this is Christina and Angie. Can everybody come down for me, please, and just come and have a look? Francesca, come and have a look. All right. So, Angie, can you show us you going up? You don't have to go up, just show us your shape kind of thing. I just want people to see the difference in the shapes. Okay. Yeah, that's cool, Angie. And then a little hop, she doesn't have to go up. You saw it, that's perfect, thank you. And Christina, can we see you a little bit too, please? Okay, just, I'm not looking for the dramatic going up. So Christina, yes, there you go.
I can't see the girls doing that. Are we supposed to see them?
Yes. Can you not see them? I can see them. Can you? You can't see.
Must go onto gallery.
Yeah, you have to go on gallery view.
Oh, you're not on gallery. So go on gallery.
To gallery.
I don't want to.
Let's see. Okay. Okay, no worries. I'll sort it out. Thank you.
I don't
carry on.
you can do it again. But basically, what was happening for those that could see them is that Angie's got long legs, and her legs were much further away. So she's got to kick way harder than Christina's got to kick. Christina's top leg is almost up immediately because of the hamstring, as she's so close in, and Angie is just further away. So in order for Angie to get up, it's like a go, and for Christina not so much. Okay, there's just, you can see it immediately. If people are in this angle and kicking up, it means they've got to go so much further. Whereas the closer you're in, that top leg gets almost up into vertical so quickly, and then the other leg just comes up. Okay, I'm going to try and get in the adjustment session. I'm going to get Taryn to show you guys in the studio how easy it is to get people up into handstand in the middle of the room. Okay, because the minute you get that top leg up, the other leg just comes with it. Okay, it's just different people. Okay, so now you're going to try handstand, and of course handstand is different. So if you're feeling nervous, just go slow. I am much more interested in you firstly getting the hand position right, shoulders stacked over wrist, straight arms. Make a note, I keep my arms straight. Bring your one foot in, and it's a springy leg. If you can, take the other leg up high. It can be bent, cool, and see where you go. It might just be tiny little bunny jumps, and that is absolutely fine. Be on your toe. That's it, Inka. Good. That's it. Good topic. So, Ella, line your shoulders much more over your wrist. And remember, no, you've got a little bit too far. A little bit too far. Yeah, and drishti, guys, this is when you need it. Cheryl's a happy handstander. Okay, Severine also. Francesca. That's it. Okay. So, Angie, you're not starting with your shoulders lined over your wrists. Start with your shoulders over your wrists first. Yeah, you're quite close to the wall. Okay, now walk your leg in. Yeah, you need to get that leg in more. Yes, that's it. Shoulders over wrist. She's frozen again. She's probably, yes, now go. Now spring. Okay, I'm going to show you what Angie's doing in a minute. Okay. Okay, you can see it's tough, right? Okay, take a break. So this is what Lily's up. Okay. There is no reason that all of you won't get up if that is something that you want to do at some stage, okay? Remember, it's always a progression, and that, you know, if you can kick up at the wall, it's one thing, but then once you can do that, then you just got to turn around and do it in the middle of the room. Then you're going to fall over. Then you've got to spend 5 years trying to learn to balance. So it's never ending, okay? But what I want to show you now is what Angie was doing, and a couple of others I couldn't see because some of the camera angles, whatever, and why it makes the momentum so hard. So Angie, and it's not just particular to Angie, most people do it, right? So instead of starting with the shoulders over the wrist, you start in this position, okay? So that means, look, like if I take my top leg up, look how far I have to go to get myself up into the handstand alignment. If I start here, bring myself in, I'm closer. Can you see? So if I'm here, back here, I'm only to here. Look how far I've got to go. Whereas here, I'm way closer. Okay? So then I have less hop to go. Right? The reason, this is where it gets tricky. Okay, spotlight. Okay, the reason it gets tricky with this, and the reason that when I say to people, bring your shoulders over your wrist, you're pulling away from them. What do you think the reason is? Can anybody guess? What's this, Inka?
Shoulder stretch.
Your shoulder flexion or your shoulder movement.
Definitely a possibility, but mostly not. Mostly it's fear of the wall. So the minute, Angie, I made you back, line you up, you were you know, because what happens is we're scared to kick up, right? So then we want to be as close to this nice wall as possible. Okay, that's the plan. We want to be really, really, really close and love the wall. But the problem is, like I said, you have no option but to move in handstand. And you're moving forward and up. So the minute, if you start too close to the wall, it doesn't allow you the movement forward and you'll hit your head. So when you did it and you lined your shoulders over your wrist, you then brought your leg forward and then you went, no way, the woman's mad. I'm not doing that. I'm going to hit my... So you need to, and this is where it makes it very tricky, you need to move a little bit further away from the wall to allow that movement. So you can see how handstand is like the most complicated pose in the world. But what I want you to do is I want you to understand that for your sequencing. I mean, you guys know, I love handstand. I have so much respect for this bugger of a pose that has taken me so long to be able to do even remotely okay, because it takes practice forever. And the minute you stop, it all falls apart as well. But the main thing I would say is build up the strength, okay? Once you can do 3 wall holds of 30 seconds in handstand or forearm balance, your brain will go, and you will be able to translate it into the kick, okay? Often I see it taught other where people are just kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking. It's useless. It's not going to help, right? What you need is that trust in your arms, the skill of knowing where your feet should be, your shoulders, your wrists. And Taryn's going to do it again with you, I think on Sunday. She's going to run through it again with you. And practice. Get up to those 3 wall holds, times 30 seconds. Your brain will just go, oh, I can do this. And then we've got to turn you around and go into the middle of the room. Okay. All right. I want to, because I know this is hard work, I would like to go through, I think, just one arm balance with you. I don't think we need to do others because Taryn's going to cover side crow and a couple this weekend. I just want to do one with you so that we can relate it to the poses, okay? And then have a quick look at the poses. So what I would like to do is flying pigeon, okay? Now, flying pigeon is a hard arm balance. Does everybody know what flying pigeon looks like? If you don't, put up your hand. Angie?
Sure.
Everybody? So flying pigeon is the pose where okay, it's the pose where you are in this shape and you go down. Okay. Okay. Oh, I've got slidey pants on. I forgot about that. They never have slidey pants doing arm balances. It's a really stupid thing to do. Okay. And then you lean forward, and then you lift your leg up in the air. Okay. A hard arm balance, and it kind of feels breezy on your. What am I doing here? It feels breezy on your arm, okay? Okay, so let's break it down. What flexibility is required?
External hip rotation.
Look at you guys, 2 weeks in. External hip rotation. You must go down to your local yoga class and just mention it to your yoga teacher and see if they know what you're talking about. Well done. Okay, so external hip rotation, right? So somebody's got to be able to get into that shape. If they can't, it's going to be almost impossible to do this pose. Okay, then they would have to do something like a one-legged crow, which is the hardest arm balance we have. pretty much. It's really, really, really hard. Okay, so how would we decide for ourselves and for our clients the shape of, how would we find out whether they've got enough flexibility? What could we make them do?
Pigeon pose.
Normal pigeon first.
Pigeon.
Or figure 4.
Figure 4. Anything else?
Butterfly.
Butterfly.
Lotus.
Cradle.
Yes, yes. Sorry, somebody said something else. Cradle, cradle. I mean, cradle, I know there's figure 4 shapes, yes, cradle, but not so much even just the shape. So remember, as Cheryl's doing there, she's doing cradle. So cradle 4 like this, okay? So I'm leaning back on my chair here. But not only do we have to do this shape, we also have to be able to get our arms here, okay? If we can do this shape and our arms are here, so that's on my elbow, that's going to be a very, very scary pose. So it's really like a squishy cradle 4. So if you thought of something like pigeon, right? So pigeon's normally with our leg like that, right? Pretty much, and then we lie down over it, which is not really the shape that we're in. It's definitely external hip rotation, but maybe in pigeon, we could actually bring the leg a little bit further forward and then maybe bend the elbows over it, okay? So that is the serious flexibility of flying pigeon. The more you are able to do that shape and the more you're able to squish over, because if I am spotlighting again, so you can see from the front, okay, right? I'm in this shape. It doesn't have to be dead straight like that, okay? It can be a little bit further up, it's fine. But this is going to be leaning on my arms, okay? It's going to be leaning on my arms, and my arms are going to be shaped pretty much, depends, either like that, which makes it harder, believe it or not. The fancy pose is easier, or just slightly bent. But they don't have to be leaning there. So I'm going to have to get really low down, okay? So I do it against the wall here. If I'm up against the wall, it's easier. I have to get this low down. Okay? The higher up my arms they are, if I'm here, that's really hard. I can't do, I'm going to break my elbows. Okay? Then I have to do a flying crochet. This is really what I'm looking for and leaning forward there. You can see I've got my knee there and I'm hooking, sorry, stupid hair. I'm hooking my foot. So if my foot's just like that, it slides off. So what we try to do in the pose is to hook, okay? Really hook. And it's a really difficult pose. So what I would like, okay, let's just finish the pose analysis. So what strength is required?
Arm strength, wrists.
Arm strength, yes. Wrist strength, yes. Sorry, Lily, you were saying something? I just heard a few people.
I said the glutes to hold the back leg straight to the back.
Absolutely. Okay. So definitely arms, biggest thing. Okay. And we're looking at a slightly bent arm shape. And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do, I'm sure some guys out there can do it with straight arms. Normally it's done with either a chaturanga shaped arm like this or just a little bit like that, okay? So somebody would have to have the strength to hold themselves and not collapse in that. Then, like Lily says, we have to take the back leg up. And if you're in any doubt of this, just feel what's happening if you take your back leg up in standing splits, those kind of poses, three-legged dog, touch your bum. So you'll feel your glute, big glute max muscle, your big bum muscle, that's on, and your hamstrings as well. So in terms of poses, we would want to do all your good cradle fours, your external rotation poses, all of the stuff that you guys mentioned, the standing poses, the seated poses, all of those things. We would want to bring some skill shape into it. So something like getting the arms over you, over your shin, getting those placements, right? Maybe in a seated cradle four or in pigeon, you could do it with bent arms. kind of have to be creative with that. The strength, maybe a couple of slow, lower chaturanga type things. Not too much, of course, because we don't want to tire people out. And then the back leg. So the back leg is, you literally, when you lift it up, it's tucked into your chest. So I'm like this, but my back leg then gets tucked into my chest, and then it presses backwards. So what poses do we do that in? Like shapes of poses.
Aeroplane.
Aeroplane, you could definitely, with aeroplane, you could actually bend the knee in and then take the leg back, right? It doesn't have to just be straight leg back, because you'll see when you try flying pigeon, if you immediately take the leg back, it's too much, too soon. There's too much lever out there, and you normally collapse. So normally we bring it in and take it back. What do we do all the time in vinyasa classes that almost mimics that movement?
Pull the knee to the nose.
Dog.
You got it. It's exactly the same move. So that can be brought into your sequence it up. Draw the knee in. There's a nice little bit of core work. Squeeze in, and now kick the leg up high. So your glutes are working, hamstrings are working, all of this. Any one-legged pose, you can bring that in easy peasy. You know, you could step back really slowly into crescent lunge. You can do all of those good things. Okay. All right. So now what we're gonna do first is we're going to have a look at your Cradle Fours. Okay, seated Cradle Four. Can you get yourself into that shape and see if you can, or you can even do like I did with your bum against the wall, whichever feels good for you. I just want to see the shape. Okay. So you bring your leg and see if you can get your shin fairly close. Ah, Yvette, here we go. Yes. Yeah, Amy, here we go. Good to see the difference. Okay. Francesca's in that shape. Angie's in the shape. Guys, try it against the wall or standing if you're sitting, because it's easier when you're in hip flexion. Okay. Even have your bum against the wall a little bit if that helps with balance. A little bit further out, Yvette. Yes, there you go. Now fold over your leg. See where you can go. Yes, that's it. There you go. Different, right? Different. There you go. Now try hooking your foot on your arm. Don't come up yet, but try hooking your foot on your arm. Hooking it.
Catherine, I'm a bit confused. Are we still doing that sitting down, or we've already started?
I mustn't have heard. I said, well, try it standing up and folding over now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's because bringing hip flexion into it makes it a little bit easier sometimes with external rotation. That's it, Cheryl. And then just drop down to the ground. Okay. Akila, hook your foot now around your arm. Yes. Look at that. A cute little foot. It just went oops and hooked around. Okay. Yes, Cheryl. So I would just bring your arms are too wide. They were just a wee bit too wide. Yes, that's it. And now see if you can hook your foot. There you go. There you go. Hooking your foot and hands down to the ground. That's it, Amy. Flat hands on the ground. See if you can do it. Yes, there you go. Okay. And break a bit. Okay. So you can see, again, this thing that we always talk about in terms of progressions, right? The easier version to the hard. So from you sitting down to squatting down to hands on the ground for some of you who are getting there, to hooking the foot are all just stages in Flying Crow. Okay, that's it. It's just stages. So if you're able to get into the stage where your hands are on the ground, you're hooking your foot, you've got your shelf. We can see Amy's there. Flat hands on the ground. Hook your foot, Amy. There you go. Hook it. Don't kill your cat. And then now what has she got to do? You tell her.
Lean.
Lean forward.
She's got to bend her arms. Her arms aren't bent, okay? And she's got to lean forward. Yeah. Yes, drishti. And then she's got to lean forward. Okay, so we can see what's it. So that's the next stage. So Amy's now gone from being folded in the right place to leaning forward. but is not ready to come up yet, okay? So we're all gonna try it once more again. So you can see that they're all stages. So Amy would just then work on the leaning forward, and if that was Amy's pose choice, in breaking it down for herself, Amy would go, why do I feel like I can't lean forward? Because we know she's got to lean further, right? For that back foot to come up, okay? Because you don't flick it up, it comes up, right? Always getting the actions right. So then it might be a fear factor. Is there anything I can do about that? Maybe put a cushion in front of me. Maybe I've just got to try it a little bit more, or maybe I want some more arm strength, and you explore around there. But the action is of the leaning, and I'm going to show you guys once more, just the next stage. And it's not a very comfy pose. I never, ever, 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 ever practice this pose, like ever. Okay? I do it once or twice in a teacher training, and that's it, if I have to do arm balances. Okay, so we get into our shape. There's a thread. This is where you guys all go. Down I go, I hook, okay? And now my arms are straight, but I need to bend my arms, otherwise they're going to break, okay? So I place it, and now I'm leaning. So can you see my arms begin to bend as soon as I lean, okay? They're leaning, and I'm still just leaning, okay? I'm still leaning, okay? Hooking my foot, and I'm pushing into the ground, and then my foot just comes up to here, okay? You have, the minute your foot comes up, I should say, as your foot is coming up, you need to push into the ground and expect your tricep to hurt, because that's what they do, these poses, they hurt, and then your tricep gets used to it. I saw Taryn telling you about Bakasana as well. So give it a bash. Only go to where you feel you're okay to go now. I'm much more interested in you understanding you and the pose, remembering that you need to lean forward and not smash into the wall. Yes, Francesca. That's good, Christina, that's good. Now look forward, Christina. Don't feel like you have to come up. That's it. Angie, you've got this. Lean a little bit more. That's it. Now push into the ground and take that back foot. Yes. Okay, you're just flicking back. Yes, Severine, that's good. That's good. Yes, and then she did a little float. Nice. Good. That's it, Angie. So for you, Angie, those long legs, you're going to have to lean more, or do it with your hands on blocks. You do it with your hands on blocks, it gives you more height to lean. That's it, Pauline. So you're just leaning. That's it. So Pauline, sorry, Lily, I forget. You just need to lean a little bit more. That's all it is. But it's a tricky pose, right? Yes, Yvette. Nice little float. Cute. But a very measured way of doing it. That's it, Inka. Hook that foot a little bit more. Yes, and look forward. This is a hard pose. That's it. Good. And you just need to be there. And then the heavier your legs are, the more you have to push into the ground. Yes, Severine, that's good. That's good. Okay. So with Severine, she's able to lift the foot up a little bit, but you need to be about 1 to 2 centimeters further forward, and then your foot will stay. Because the minute you lift, it's pulling you back again. You just need, not today, you just need to go a little bit further. But can you see that it's just a big range of progression of the pose, okay? And you guys, like anybody else, you have to know your body. That's why the pose analysis is important. You need to go, this is the pose, this is me, because you're all completely different. You're like totally and utterly different. And as good teachers and practitioners, you need to understand, hey, you know what? My legs are way heavier than my upper body. That means I've got to be stronger. Oh, my flexibility isn't that great. I've got to be stronger. The answer is always be stronger at the end of the day, okay? Pretty much. It's like, you know, I have to work on my flexibility a little bit more, but etc. Oh, I don't really understand that. I'm quite scared of it. Oh, I'm not quite sure where to put my foot. Break the pose down for you, right? And that's all I'm expecting you to do. Okay. I want to spend, I was going to do another arm balance, but I think you guys are wiped. I just want to go very, very briefly through the next, hang on a sec, let me check the schedule, because maybe I can let you guys go. Hold on a sec, give me take a break for 5 minutes, and then just come back while I check the schedule if you want to go to the loo or grab a glass of water. I'm just going to give it another minute before everybody comes back, and then just a run through, hopefully just 10 minutes, and then I'll let you guys go. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to start. All right. So we talked about the pose analysis, and that was on page 33. And you guys are going to follow that template. If you want the Word document, then send me a message, okay? That's due in for the 8th of May, okay? Again, I would advise as quickly as you can. It shouldn't be that complicated, just from what you've done already with the anatomy work and the understanding that I can see you guys have got, you know, that even if we decided to chat about Firefly, not Firefly, that one, Flying Pigeon here, you guys would know main pose movements, what it is, what the flexibility required, the skill, you guys have got this, okay? Then on the 12th of May, what is due is your peak pose summary template. And I'm seeing you next Wednesday night, but just for a short period. So we can definitely, you can also please just send me questions at all times, all right? I'm very happy to help out with your poses and all of that. If you want to send me your pose choice sooner, of course, please do. And we'll get you through this, right? So the next stage after your pose analysis has been approved and your breakdowns there is where you choose the main poses in your sequence, okay? And this is all in the videos as well, in the pose, the peak pose sequencing videos. What I'm asking you to do is choose approximately 14 to 16 poses that relate to your pose analysis breakdown, okay? So you would then go, okay, my pose analysis is side crow, it's a twist, I need twist, not a lot really needs to be stretched, I need a bit of shoulder protraction and I need quite a lot of skill, okay? Then you would go into your, this is a twisted half moon example, could also be a twisted crow example, then you go into your particular pose template and you will choose 16 poses that relate to your sequence, okay? Those poses must be chosen in terms of progression. So in other words, if you choose splits as your peak pose, you wouldn't want to start with splits, okay? And you wouldn't want to start with even a half split. You would want to start warming up if you're doing lying stuff. I'm not a big fan of lying down on my back stuff. Core stuff I quite like and active stuff like that. But definitely you could do stuff on your back. You can do stuff seated and you can do stuff standing. You can get those hamstrings. We know you need hamstrings warming up. So twisted half moon would be, flexibility requirements would be hamstrings, right? And a lot of hamstring work. It's a twist, so we want some twisting movement, and we've got that back leg going out, okay? So the back leg is quite similar to a whole heap of other poses. So you've got 3 different things you can go, okay, I need to do loads of hamstring warming up. That's easy, you guys know, it's hundreds of them in the manual, not hundreds, but a lot, okay? You know that you need to do twists, so maybe you'd want to do just normal twists, but maybe you'd want to do supine twists with some hamstring movement. Maybe you want to do seated twists with some hamstring movement, but we wouldn't want to go completely mad on twists. So we'd want to maybe do hamstring, twist, hamstring twist, right? And then break it up, okay? But remember, we're just looking for the important poses that you think are going to help the people and yourself to get to the final pose. Then we look at the back leg and go, oh, right, okay. So that back leg is just, you know, being pushed out straight. We could even do knee to nose, into downward dog, anything like on your knees, leg going out, mimic the pose on your knees, you know, twisted half moon on your knees, take the back leg out. We could do obviously our warrior 3s, all of those kind of things, aeroplanes, etc. And you can see this is an example. So what I want you to do, and this is really basic, okay? It doesn't have to be absolute poses. These are just the poses that you're going to work around in your sequence. Sorry, I keep looking at you all down the side here. These are the poses that you're going to work around in your sequence, okay? So they put a pose here, lying head to knee pose stretch and side lying triangle, okay? That's a couple of things on the floor, all right? And then it's been said that's going to stretch our adductors, our hamstring stretch, and bring a bit of core in because we're going to do it with no hands, okay? Why is the pose there? Why have you chosen that pose? Then we've got butterfly. adductor stretch, right? No twist there, but we can put in a twist if you want. We could do butterfly, and then the next pose is seated head to knee pose, wide-legged pose, okay? Adductor and hamstring stretch. So you can see that all the poses that have been chosen, adductor compass, adductor hamstring stretch, low lunge twist into standing split, it's a twist, hamstring stretch, and the back leg extension, tree into twisted tree, and into a warrior three. It's a balance, because that's a skill element of half moon, right? You know how tricky even just normal moon is to half moon is to balance. Twisted half moon is even harder. So it's a balance, it's a twist. So basically you're running through all of these poses, and they don't have to, you're not connecting them, you're just choosing poses. So they have to be in some kind of semblance of progression in terms of being easier to hard, okay? And some kind of order. Because if you're going to do a whole load of lying poses and then you're lying on your back and then all of a sudden you're in handstand, that's quite challenging. Like, how are you going to get there? Can be done, but try to keep it into supine, seated, standing, etc. So it's keeping it kind of together. You can see, you know, it's starting off with the things that are on their back, the seated poses, seated again, and then a lot of standing poses. In fact, all standing poses, and finally into half moon, okay? Half moon has got pose modifications that we spoke about. You've got your different versions of it, and that is basically it, okay? It sounds like, oh wow, it's only 16 poses, but what you'll see is when you go to the main sequence is, I'm not expecting just dead straight poses. I'm expecting you to do, it depends on your pose choice, things with your arms, creative stuff. And then you're going to add a whole load of transitions in the final thing to make it all flowy, okay? Now, in your sequence, eventually, you might do compass 4 times in different ways, but it just counts as one. You know, compass can be where your legs at the front, you're warming up to the side, and then eventually you put your leg behind you. All of that just counts as one, okay? One kind of area of pose. You could have somebody in butterfly with adductor stretch, but then you could maybe take hold of your toes and take your legs wide out to Upavishyakonasana, bring it back into butterfly, but it's just one pose. It's not a train smash if you have more than 16 poses. It's just, it fills up your sequence quite easily. So warrior three, this is not just going to be lying head to knee, butterfly seated, head to knee pose, compass, low lunge, because that's too quick. Remember, it's got to be done on both sides. And remember, you're going to put things in between it. And remember, you're probably going to do the poses like warrior three. You might actually do a bent leg warrior three. You might then do a, you know, bent leg warrior three down into a pistol squat as your transition, coming into maybe a parigasana, gate pose, side straight, back up, okay? Warrior three, aeroplane arms, okay? Some other transition, final version, warrior three. Like you're doing in your sequence, you're going to mix it up. So it's not just warrior three, end of story. You're going to mix it up a little bit, okay? So this is just a look-see into this, and what I want you to think of, and it's all written at the top, and most of your poses, if you choose from the ones on the videos, have kind of ideas around them, so it's really worth watching them. Think of shapes of poses, okay? What shapes can you create? What have you experienced? Be creative in your thing, because, you know, you've just got people sitting in butterflies like, oh, you know, unless you're really, really good at butterfly, butterfly's a bit of a like, for most people. Be creative there. What can I do? Butterfly, maybe I can straighten the leg out into a half compass. You know, butterfly again. Maybe I can straighten both legs out, float them up in the air. Butterfly again. Maybe I can do a twist in butterfly, etc. But for the template, the second template, the peak pose summary template, all I need are those main poses that you've chosen, so pose areas and why you've got them in there. And the minute you go, if I had my pose analysis for twisted half moon and I went, what flexibility do you need? I would be writing, I need hip flexion flexibility, okay? And I need, because it's a twist, I need my adductors, my inner groin, and my hamstrings to be stretched, okay? So then you know, I need a whole load of poses like that, but I want them in kind of similar shapes, okay? It's a twist. So I do want some action of twisting in there so that people can open their chest, right? Okay, but I wouldn't want to twist every single pose. And people would be like, oh, come on now, I don't need to twist again. So you can just bring twists in every third movement. So you could have butterfly, which is just an adductor stretch, straighten out, wide-legged seated forward fold, which is stretching adductors and hamstrings, coming back in it, maybe in your wide-seated forward fold, bring in a twist. Okay, so then we've got the twists in. Then we know that Twisted Half Moon has got a balance element to it as well, which will all be in your breakdown. It's a balance. It's, you know, it's a balance on one leg, flexibility, stretches your hamstrings, back leg, it's taken out, requires a bit of strength to keep it up, okay? So then we've covered the adductors, the hamstrings, the twist, the balance. Then we go, okay, we wouldn't want to balance poor people on one leg the whole way through it because their ankles will get tired. And this will be in your pose analysis. What will get tired? And that might be your leg that you're standing on, which I'm sure all of you would answer, and maybe the actual twist, like, might be a bit tiring. So we wouldn't want to do loads of those, but we want to bring that in, okay? And what do we need for balance? We need drishti, like we know that, right? Arm balances, and this is all in your notes for it. It's in your manual, it's in the videos. So we write down balance and then in brackets, focus. So then we bring in whatever you guys fancy, right? Warrior threes, a tree pose. Maybe a tree pose moving into something. I think there's down a twisted tree, tree into a twisted tree. Concentrating on gaze point and then turning balance, but not going mad, because we still need the people to do the final pose. And then the last thing on the what needs to be strong, as in, you know, holding the back leg. All of this will be in your little pose, and then you go, ooh, what can I do to make the back leg, that same action where people can really understand that they have to push through the back leg in order to get it up there. And we know all of those things on your knees, leg out back, three-legged downward dog, your warriors, all of your different things. And again, you wouldn't want to do it all the time, but it's just elements of that in the pose, okay? Then you will have your last ones, the pose modifications, which is also in your pose analysis. If we go back to the pose analysis, here you go, pose modification. So all the stuff will be in here, okay? So all of it, basically, for your pose. And then your little cool down poses, and I've said refer to your manual because it'll actually say for back bends, maybe have a look at those. For forward bends, maybe have a look at those. So it's all of this information is there, and of course you've got me as well. And I'm going to stop sharing and then look at you guys all and then ask you, do you have any questions? Amy.
I just wanted to ask, I know you said that in the peak pose summary section with all the little pictures, sort of each row is of the same, you know, easy to hard. Are the rest of the manual, like, are those in any sort of order? As we, like the detailed,
no. No,
not at all. Okay.
Because they all, you know, if you're talking about forward bends, if you say you're talking about single leg forward bends, you're talking about line, standing, they're all over the place. So it's best to just go, you guys know all these things anyway. You know, these pictures are just much more a kind of like little reminder for you. So it's much easier just to go and look at the pictures and go, oh, you know, I quite like that. That looks quite interesting. And stuff that you've done in your own vinyasa classes as well, that you know, little movements and things like that. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay, Amy?
Yes, that's perfect. Thanks.
Cool. Anybody with any other questions? I know it's all like, oh, at first, but you will get there. I promise. Everyone always does. Okay? The only time you don't get there if you don't do the work. That's it. End of story. So it's fine. So, okay, I can see very tired Friday faces. So I'm going to let
Can I ask a question? Sorry, Catherine. Sorry, but you say, so in this first summary temple, you say be creative and like do your hands, like your arms in different way and all of that. So, but here you say like we have to be specific of every single movement that we do with the arms and everything, or just the actual pose?
Yeah, if you're doing arms for a specific reason. So if I was doing, you know, if I was, say we were choosing wheel, right? And then we know that wheel, you need to preferably do some work on shoulder flexibility. So then, you know, we've got all of these poses, but not poses, but arms, but those can be done in hundreds of poses. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you can do all of these. I mean, it would be a bit dull if you just said to someone, sit down, let's do this. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you can do those poses in those arm shapes in a lot of other poses. So then I would expect you to go, wheel, we know, likes a little bit, sort of not too much, but a little bit of quad stretching. So you could be in a quad stretching pose, mermaid, for example, your back leg there, and then bring your arms back first into Garudasana arms, Gomakasana, Garuda, I always get confused, okay? And then you would say mermaid with Garudasana arms, mermaid, back bend, quad stretch, Garudasana arms, shoulder flexibility movement.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So it's like, it's if you're putting the arms in for a specific reason. So say you were doing some lat stretches in some of the poses. In a pigeon, you do lat stretch and then walk around or thing. You would say pigeon, reach back, hold the pigeon or / mermaid, quad stretch with lat arms, side stretch for shoulder mobility. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm only talking about you needing to name things that are specific to your final pose. So when you add your transitions and all your bits later on, you can add, you can be as mad as you like and wild, or you can be very measured. We'll talk about it a little bit later, you know, and then you can do all sorts of different things, and I will only care that you are able to get from one pose to the next, that the transition works. And then I don't need an explanation for it. I just need you to tell me what you fancy doing as a transition. Your arms can do whatever they like. I don't care. I just need to know that you are able to get, if you're lying down, to upside down with your transition. So then you don't need to give me reasons. All this is, if you think about it like a training program where you'd go, okay, I'm working on wheel, I need to add in a whole load of shoulder flexibility movements. I need to do a little bit of quad stretching, maybe some mild back bending, some push work as well. And then you bring that into all of the poses, okay? So we'd be looking at things like working your bridges, your Purvottanasana, but we wouldn't want to do too much back bending because especially the cobras and stuff, people dump into their lower back. All right. Does that make sense, Francesca?
Yes, yes, yes.
And just ask me at all. Sun salutations do not count unless you are doing something specific in the sun salutation, okay? So sun salutations are just transitions, that's all it is. But say your pose was flying pigeon and you chose to do hovering pigeon leg from downward dog to against your arms, holding there, coming back up, leg up in the air, that would count as a pose. That would count as pigeon-shaped leg, back leg extension, flying pigeon. Totally related, okay? But this and folding forward, no. Uttanasana, like from a sun salutation, up and down into Uttanasana doesn't count. You need to be more creative because you're going to do that anyway in your transitions, okay? You're going to, you know, you've got to do some kind of movement in your transition, so you will be doing all those anyway. So these are just like relatively simple. You'll see, I mean, you already told me with Flying Pigeon exactly what you guys needed to do, right? If you think it's like in that twisted half moon, there's 15 poses. Like flexibility always requires more, and you remember you rate strength, flexibility, and skill. So if flexibility is at 5, that means your sequence is going to be a flexibility orientated sequence. Okay, more hamstring stretches and bits in it. If your strength is 5 and your flexibility is 2, you're going to have to create more shapes, because we know we can't brute force strength for an hour or 50 minutes. Okay, we can't. So we can only do a little bit of strength in it. And then we'd be creating, go to your Bakasana, then we'd be creating shapes, lots and lots of shapes, and adding elements of skill into the pose. Okay? Any more questions? No? We're all good and all sleepy? And then you just are. Oh, Inka, did you have a question? No, you didn't. You sure? Okay. And you could always just send me a message and ask. Okay. But you know this. Okay. You know, you all, as soon as I say, okay, what's the shape of Flying Pigeon, flexibility wise, you all immediately answer and gave me at least 8 examples of hip external rotation poses. Okay. You got this, right? And that's all you have to do for this. But we're going to talk about this bit. So I would really strongly advise that you get your pose analysis done as soon as you can, and at least have the questions that you need for the summary template, the 16 poses, next week when I see you on Wednesday, so you can, you know, if things aren't quite clear yet, and also send me messages. Okay, all right. Good night. Have a restful night. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.